I want to make sure to thank you all for having me to Texas today. My cousin is a long-haul truck driver. I've been wanting to get out here for a long time, and he's, you gotta go, you gotta go. And then he finally heard that I got to go, and he goes, you gotta see some sights. So I certainly hope I get to see some sights today. Today we're here to talk about estimating. Accurate estimating has always been important, but in today's environment of, budget cuts and limited funding, good estimating practice is more vital than ever to any agency. Like many state DOTs, Washington uses bid history data to create estimates for most of its projects. The main reason for this beyond limited staff and resources is that most of us don't have the information to what the contractor's resources, his labor, what he's going to sub out, any of that stuff for sure. What using the bid history provides for us is it provides for us a reasonable cost for typical items for typical projects. And what we're going to present today is how to use a bid analysis tool to make the most of that bid history data that you have. What we can use this tool for is to effectively or efficiently sift through all this pile of data that you have and get out those bits that are actually most relevant to our project that we're trying to estimate at the time, like similar locations, similar quantities, similar types of projects. There are many bid analysis tools out there, and they're all really good. I'm going to show you BidTubs Pro today because that's what Washington State uses, and we chose that just because it's really a simple thing to use. You can just sit down and start using it pretty much. It's relatively inexpensive, but it still has pretty robust analysis capabilities. Today, Blane's going to go over many of the considerations in preparing a good estimate of cost for your project, and I'm going to demonstrate how we can use this tool to add value to that effort.
All right, so quick quiz. You just heard it before. Why is cost estimating important? Come on, this is the interactive part here, gang. Come on now, come on.
We don't have flashcards.
Yeah. So why do we do cost estimating? Manage money. Exactly. No matter what you think, Texas DOT, or in our case, Washington State DOT, we're big business. We got to make financial decisions. How are we going to spend the money? Where are we going to spend the money? If there's not enough money for this project over here, it's taken away and given to this project over here that needs a little bit more. That's just the way it does. So an accurate cost estimating is vital. So we've got to put together our budgets. And the other part that is so very important on this thing that I want to kind of emphasize as we're going through here, it's important to keep your cost estimating, your estimates current, okay? So very often when I've been brought in to review a project, the project's at 60% design, the cost estimate's back at 30%. And I never quite understand that because the cost estimate in some ways is more important than your design, okay? Because without it, it doesn't go to the street. So you heard earlier from Curtis that, okay, we've got a lot of different names for this thing. We got construction costs, we got the engineer's estimate, the baseline estimate. I'm going to talk a little bit lower than that. I call it the base cost estimate. Basically said that if there is no risk needed, no contingency needed, if I put my job out on the street tomorrow, what could I expect for the bid prices to be? Okay? I don't want to be conservative. I don't want to be optimistic. I don't want to be biased or anything. I just want to be neutral about my estimate. Okay? The other part about my estimate when I'm looking at it is that it's all done in current year dollars. We don't have crystal balls. We can't forecast the future. There's lots of other tools out there that'll do that stuff for us. Okay? So we want everything in today's dollars, and that's the way I like to say it. put the job out today, what could we expect for bid prices? So, how are we going to do this here? Well, the first and foremost, cost estimators need to know their project, okay? They got to get out of their cubicle. They got to go drive the project. They got to see what's involved. They need to understand the neighborhood, if you will, of where this project is. Is it out in the middle of nowhere, or is it somewhere inside the big city? Where can my materials expect to come from? Where can where can the contractor stage his equipment? They have to know as much as the designer does. You can't just hand somebody a set of plans and say, here's your quantities, tell me what the prices are. We need to know a lot of information to be a good estimator. We need to know our resources. What do I have? In the case of Washington State DOT, we've got a very robust unit bid analysis system of all of these years of history of all of the bid prices that have come in so that we can use. You saw early on that we got to start the estimating way, way back at the beginning, okay? When it's way back there, we don't know how many tons of asphalt we're going to need. We don't know most things about our job. But all the way along, we need to focus on the things that matter, as we heard. The way to do that is just the old 80-20 rule, okay? 20% of your items are going to make up 80% of the cost. If you can nail those down, you're going to have a better estimate as you move forward into planning, programming, scoping, preliminary design, etc. So focus on those items and just know that if you can get those nailed down, add 20% more and you're pretty darn close to what your estimate should be. It's just that simple. So with all this said, how many people in the room think cost estimating is a science? Really? How many people think it's all art? Okay, we got an artsy group here. Okay. Well, you know what? It's really both. Without the science, we can't make those artsy decisions. Our experience comes from all of the past history in there. And so, Tommy, can you show us a little bit about the science side of all of this?
Okay. Let me pull up our bid analysis tool here. And what I'm going to show you is kind of how you can look at your bid items. Now, this bid analysis tool has a bunch of ways you can analyze your bid data. You can do contractor stuff, you can look at your lettings, you can look at your jobs, you can even do market analysis stuff. But I'm going to focus today on pretty much just the bid item stuff. So I'm going to pull up my buy item tool here, and I'm going to, I noticed you guys publish online like a 3-month rolling average, just kind of a report, and we can get something like that out of here too. I can just select all my pay items, and I'm just going to do 6 months right now. And we can, oops, I want to show my quantities, and I'm going to preview this report. Let's see. And let me get past mobilization. We got a lot of that. And this is kind of the same sort of deal you guys have in a report. It'll give you, this is what it's showing you right here, is this is all the pay items that Washington State has used in their contracts that they let over the last 6 months. And it'll show me how many contracts I used it in. It'll give me the quantities, some averages. I can even put contract numbers in here so I could go look up those jobs for those items if I wanted to. But, you know, I'm really interested in what my HMA hot mix asphalt items have been doing over the past 6 months. Specifically, let's say hot mix class 1/2 inch. So I can either type in my pay item if I can remember it, or pick it from the pull down list, but I can never do that. So I got this handy little pick tool here, and it shows me my standard items and their names and their categories. And what's really cool about this is I can sort it alphabetically, or if I can't really remember my whole bid item name, I can go by category, and I can scroll down here, and I can find, there it is, HMA class 1/2. So there we go. There's my asphalt item. Next, I got to decide okay, what kind of bid prices do I want to look at? And we got here, I can look at my low bidders, my low two. I don't normally look at those to determine a price unless I'm just trying to get a general, I need a price really quick, a good idea of what it's kind of costing. I usually go out to low three, then I can get a range. You know, it's somewhere in between here probably, unless I see the bid prices are going all over the place. Or if I have had a spec change that I know is affecting my bid item, and the contractors might be a little confused, I'll go out here and I'll pull all my contractors' bids. So everybody who bid on that job in the last 6 months, then I'll look for groupings of like cost. And I will know that that's probably a more, a better idea of what that item should be costing. I'm going to go ahead and do low three for this example. I'm going to make sure showing my quantities listing, and let me get my buttons to show up here, and we can preview that report. Maybe if it's going to, there we go. Okay. It's giving me problems. Okay. Okay. Please bear with me. Sometimes. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. It's a big crowd. So, okay, so what we can see here is in the last 6 months we've had 67 projects, and we've had an average about $74 a ton with our highs and lows here, and here's our quantities. But so I got this report, but what I really like to do before I preview this report, I have an advanced tool out here, and it'll give me a few more options. So I go to this advanced tool, and I think you guys can see this. I have several ways to do my calculations, and I like to use my quantity weighted average, because that's going to weight my results more by the quantities. It's not going to let the small quantities, the small jobs influence, the prices more than they should. And when you use the straight average and you're just, doing your cost divided by your jobs, then you're letting those small jobs really influence what that cost is going to be. So I always select that, and then I like to select this thing, which is admit high and low prices. And what this does for me is it immediately throws out my high and my low. And that will reduce some skewing as well. So, okay, so let me save that and preview again. And what we can see here is we cut out a couple jobs, but our unit price changed by about $1 a ton. So that's what I would do for one bid item. I have a couple more things I want to show you just because I think they're kind of cool. And this is more of my estimate review, project development hat type thing I get into. But you have an option here to do it by project type. So you can take just those projects that you've used, like all your paving projects that you've used in the last 6 months. And you can take and see how those items are, your pavement items, your CSBC, all those type of items that's on paving projects. And you can compare it to how those are costing out as opposed to a structural project or a signals project. So you can see how the different types of projects are going to influence the same bid items. And you can also do that for categories. Like if I just wanted to know generally what my paving projects were costing out over the last 6 months, I could choose asphalt. So all my asphalt items I've selected here, and I'm going to look at that. And this is how in Washington State, these are all the bid items I've used in just my paving projects. And this is how many times I've used them, and this is how they're costing out. So this is just kind of a quick overview of all those, of a category of work. And then there's one more thing I want to show you guys, because it's really cool, is you can take a group of like items. I don't know about you guys, I have a whole ton of drainage items. I don't know why the hydraulics office makes so many standard items for drainage stuff, but they do. And, they all cost about the same thing, it's like, okay, guys. So, but I'm going to do the pavement ones because we're doing that. So how I do that is I go into my pay item database and I sort again, and I get down to my asphalt items. And I would just take several items that kind of have, they're like items, they cost about the same installation, type thing, same unit of measure, and I can evaluate a group of them by just giving them the same number. So I've made a group, I go back out, and here I go back to my advanced tool, so I can, how did I do so? Oh, I need to do item group, all items button. Let's see. I can click that, and then I pull up my HMA items. Okay, and then I can do a report on this, and then I can just see how this particular group of items that I'm interested in is doing. What's also really kind of cool about this is I also use this for trending. I like to see what my items are doing. So I'm going to switch this out to 12 months so you can see it a little bit better. But I'll click on my monthly trending report, and I'll graph it out here so I get a visual. And what you see is a couple of things going on here. One, this purple line is our quantities. And you can see here how when we use a little quantity, correspondingly the prices go up. But I'm not really here to show you that. What I want to show you is this. And what this is good for, when we're using bid history, it's really easy to fall behind that curve. It seems like we're constantly chasing that price up or down depending on what the market's doing. And so, excuse me. Okay, I remember a few years ago when there was a shortage of titanium dioxide. You guys remember that? And what do we use titanium dioxide for? It's a pigment in our paint striping. And you could actually see this line go up as the costs were changing. So it was just really cool. And then I didn't get so far behind that curve. And you should use this tool not to predict your costs necessarily, but to watch those items that you will see that are in fluctuation. So, Blane, I've just showed them a lot of stuff here for the bid item. What other things can affect costs?
Well, I guess this is where we start talking a little bit about the art part. And of course, kind of like real estate, when it comes to estimating, it's location, location, location. Okay? Where am I? For those of you that have never been to Washington, it's kind of a unique state. We've got a little bit of everything. We've got the only rainforest in the lower 48 states out on the coast by the Pacific Ocean. The west side of the state is really green, and the I-5, Interstate 5 corridor is very, very urbanized. Lots of people, from Seattle all the way down through, eventually you get to Portland, Oregon, which is another big city. We got this big old mountain range splitting our state right in two. The east side of the state, my goodness, go over there and drive quads in sand dunes. I mean, it's a desert for a lot of it, where they haven't taken the water out and irrigated it and made wheat fields everywhere. So two drastically different things. And so it makes a very big difference. And I'm sure it's no different than you guys here. Things are going to cost different in East Texas, from West Texas, from the Houston area to the Panhandle. Things will cost differently depending on where you're standing. And we have to take note of that, okay? This is where we start really getting down there of, am I urban, am I rural? Does the asphalt plant 20 miles away, or are we going to be putting a plant in a quarry near my job site, and so the trucks and stuff can get there quickly? Geographic considerations is more than just where I'm standing, though. It's also about the terrain that the contractor is going to face, okay? In the old days, as this here picture represents, it didn't cost very much. I could use one horse to get the stuff to there. But as the terrain gets steeper and steeper, I gotta start putting more and more horses in front of that cart. Well, that costs more money. It's no different for the contractor. If he's gotta sit there and drive up and over a lot of varied terrain to get there, his trucks are gonna use more fuel. And, you know, the whole thing, we heard a lot of words about contingency and a little bit about risk earlier. I can tell everybody in this audience, contractors don't take risks. They price it, okay? And we have to do the same type of thing. The only thing that we should do on our estimates, though, is price it as if it's for the terrain. But if we think it'll be more than that, I really don't like putting fluff in my unit prices. Instead, I want to sit there down below the line, put a line that says additional cost for haul, probably, and put a number on it. Put it out front so everybody can see that's what your prediction is. If you go and sit there and put it in your unit bid prices, nobody knows it's there but you. Be open up front with how you're calculating your unit prices, what's in them, and also what is in your contingency or risk. It's okay to have 4, 5, 6, 7, shoot 20 individual contingency lines and what each one represents. It's called the basis of estimate, so we can be upfront with our costs. So Tommy, show us how this here program can slice and dice up all of the different locations for us.
Okay, well, okay. So I'm going to take our asphalt item again, since that's what we've been using. And let me switch it back to all pay items. Okay. And I'm just going to show you, we can do, okay. So say we have a job and it's in Seattle. So I'm going to look at, see what asphalt prices cost. I want to know what asphalt prices cost. So I'm going to pull it up, and I'm looking at all counties statewide. And I could preview that. And I've done it wrong again, because I'll pay items 57, 67. Sometimes it kind of sticks.
I know.
Okay. Okay, if I can't get this time, I'm going to close it and reopen it. So, pick my item, tab. So, yes, there we go. Thank you. Okay, so here we have our item. We've used it in 65 jobs, and it's averaging about $75 a ton, like we said before. But I know my job, Seattle's in our northwest region. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to narrow it up by a region or a district. So I'm going to pick that. And if I'm clicking too fast for you, just let me know. So I pick our region, and then I look at that. What has it been? That's kind of narrowing up my data set here, getting it closer to home. We've used it in $24. Well, now it's like up to $90 a ton. So you can see just narrowing it up that much has made quite a bit of difference. But Seattle is actually in King County, which is our largest county, which does a lot of work and influences prices quite a bit. It's very, very urban. So I'm going to go and I'm going to select that. I'm just going to go select King County and see what's happening there. So I've selected King County, and I preview that. That shot it up to $91 a ton. So that's quite a bit of difference. But as you can see here, my data set is really small. I've only got 11 data points to choose from. So what's kind of neat about this is I can set up my own user-defined region, and like Blane, to get more data sets or data points. And like Blane said, our state is broken up into two halves, so it's quite a bit of difference. How you can set up a user-defined region, is I can go into my county database and put in numbers for my user-defined region. And here's our default one. Here's the one I've set up for the east side, west side thing. But here's the one I've just set up for those very urbanized counties on the west side of our state. So we're going to use that one to get a better idea. So I'll go in here and I'll use my advanced button again, and I'm going to select this tool, which allows me to select my user-defined region just for urbanized areas. And we'll look at that.
You have to select it.
Pardon me? I didn't select, oh, yes. Select it and preview. And you can see it's a little bit better. It's not being influenced by those couple big jobs you saw up there. So it's about $87 a ton. And so you can see that location definitely has a very big impact on what your unit bid price can be. So, Blane, is there any way you could talk about something that helps us more fine-tune?
So we want to fine-tune it some more. The next thing after I figure out where I'm standing, so to speak, is, okay, now I'm ready to go start drilling into my individual quantities very, very tightly. And the number one thing I look at is how much, okay? Whether if I got 50 tons of asphalt on my job, I'm going to certainly get a different price than if I have 50,000 tons of asphalt on my price. So quantity is the next big thing that I start drilling down into there. And that's really where it starts to get a little bit different there too. This is a lot of what Tommy talked about is, who do I think my prime contractor is going to be? Is he an asphalt guy, or is he a structures guy because I have a lot of structures on my project and the asphalt's going to be subbed out? Now's when we got to start really looking at our data. Besides the quantities, and like here, you know, if I got a retaining wall that's about 10 feet high and 200 feet long, that's certainly different than one that's a mile long and 25 feet high. And all of those things start taken into account. Who's the prime, who's the sub, what's the quantity, who's doing the work. And luckily, we can start seeing this thing. The other thing I've got to start looking around now too is where the jobs are going on, okay? If I've got this animal down the road from me and I need concrete, well, he's going to be really affecting the price of what I need because he's the big guy in the block and he's probably going to be first in line. He's got the contract with the local concrete thing. Same with rebar, you know. So what other jobs are out there in my region that are going to affect my prices, okay? So quantity, not just in my job, but in the local jobs also have an impact on my prices. And I got to kind of look at all of these different things. So Tommy, show us how BidTab Pro can show us these different things.
Okay. Well, we can definitely select quantities. So let's take this item 5767 and Blane, how many tons are you going to have?
Let's just say 10,000 tons of HMA.
Okay. So I'm going to probably put a range around that. Let's say 5,000 tons to about 15,000 tons should give me a pretty good idea. And I'm going to see what that looks like. Okay, I've got four jobs.
Increase it to 12 months.
Okay, you want 12 months? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little small data set, so let's increase it out to 12 months, see if we get a few more jobs. Sometimes we could just be just outside when there was a lot of bidding, so.
Okay, so you can see we got 13 jobs now. It's up to about $81 a ton. But what I like to do, I like to actually, when I'm looking at one individual bid item like this, I'm trying to pinpoint stuff, I like to actually go out to the data that generated this report, and we can do that here. And what this has given me, it's given me a bunch of information on this. It's giving me contractors, it's giving me my quantities, it's giving me the jobs that I use this thing in, and it's giving me the total job sizes. So the first thing I like to do is I like to go out here and look at my contractors. Now, do I have a signals guy out here? If I have a signals guy with this, associated with this HMA item I'm looking at, I'm going to toss all those prices out right away probably, because he's going to sub that work out, so it's going to cost more. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go look over here at the contracts it was used in. And you know, we all know those contracts that had all kinds of problems and all kinds of issues and just strange work going on in them. So I'll probably throw those costs out as well. The next thing I'm going to look at is I kind of like to do this. I kind of like to see, even though I've already admitted my high and my low automatically, I kind of like to look and see the range that's going on. And I'm seeing all the way from $72 a ton to $96 a ton. That's kind of a big spread. So I'm going to go look at my jobs and see kind of what's going on here. And when I sort them by my job, I can see that this one particular job has my low and my high. Now there's something going on here. You know, there's something I don't know about what's affecting these costs. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that whole job, because that's probably, there's something wrong with those prices. And then our average has been reduced down to about $80 a ton by doing that. Now I'm feeling pretty good about that price, and that was kind of the artsy bit that Blane had talked about earlier. If you want to have it proved to you, or you got to prove it to somebody, we got a scientific bit here that we can show a graph, and it'll show a trend line of what the predicted cost should be, and we can even throw a standard deviation around that, and we can see that those costs are all falling in or right near that line. So that's probably a pretty good estimate for what that's going to cost per ton. So that's some of the art and science of the quantities. So Blane, what other factors can impact the cost?
Well, probably the other side of the coin is this is really good, all of this information for the items that we call our standard bid items. But as we know, we have a lot of items out there that are non-standard. And quite frankly, as Tommy just alluded to, we have a lot of standard items that something's going on with them. And, how many people in here write specifications? Really? Nobody in here writes contract specifications? I used to do that all the time, and I would do things like I'd take a standard bid item, like say lineal foot of 18-inch pipe, and I'm going to take the pipe bedding and the structure X and all these other items, and I'm going to throw it in there to make it easier on my office guys during construction. What did I just do to the price of that pipe? I just messed it all up for the future unit bid prices, because if I don't remove that standard bid item out in front of it, it goes in as that's the price of that. So buyer beware of some of this information just because of those type of things. And that's what Tommy's doing with getting rid of that really high stuff and the really low stuff. Specialty work, you know, again, it's who's the prime, who's the sub. We have a 20-mile paver that has a railroad crossing signal as part of the work in there. Who's doing that work? Did the railroad company do it and we paid them via bid item? Did you know, all of those things. Do you have some unique work? I mean, right now, just to show you, you know, that bottom picture, that's Big Bertha going under the city of Seattle at the moment. It should start moving again here shortly. I don't know what's up with all that. The other thing, though, again, like I said, standard versus non-standard bid items, you know. I'd love to see where that barrier went in, that guy's standing next to you there. That's huge stuff. But these types of things are very, very difficult for us to come and get a good price on. Luckily, though, at least with this tool, there is some things that it can help us with.
Okay, so this Bid Tabs Pro tool for me, it captures all of our items. No matter what item we have used in our contract, it captures it all. And so that includes our non-standard items. I'm trying to use the mouse, and I should be using this. So I'm going to go move over to this pay item search tool. And now we can use this to search standard items, but we can use it to search non-standard items as well. And when you're looking for your non-standard items, it's, what's associated with them is the contracts as well, so you can go pull those contracts and see, you know, the specific quantity, location, other associated items that had to be installed with that item. And even when you put, if your non-standard item was used years ago, you can use your construction cost index is to bring that up to today's dollars, and then you don't have to start from scratch, because I really hate starting from scratch. This is also great for finding those items that we use all the time, but for some reason, we can never get them in the spec book, or it takes forever. Like high visibility fence we had in Washington, and that, we used it in every project, but it would never go in the spec book, and it took forever to get it in the standard, as a standard item. And we still have one of those ones today, and it's called shoulder finishing most of the time. So I will type in shoulder here, Houlder, and I'm just going to look at the last 12 months, and I'm going to, yes, thank you. I'm gonna pick non-standard items only, and hit search. And I just typed in shoulder, because sometimes we call it shoulder dressing.
It could be finishing shoulder, it could be shoulder
Yeah.
finishing.
So what you can see is it pulled me up 13 jobs in the last 6 months that something with shoulder has been used on. So this is priceless for this. I really love this bit. But so, as you can see, unit bid history is great for us to use, but having a bid analysis tool just makes it so much more valuable, because you can really zero in on what you need for your estimate.